Hello. This tea is technically called winter, but we are here to talk about spring and summer. Cheers, friends. I hope you were cozy. If not, get cozy. Let's talk about my spring and summer reading plans. So a little while ago, I decided to kind of map out my summer reading plans a little bit. I have a massive bookshelf, which I am staring at right now, right behind where you guys are located, and it has all of the books that I own that I have not read yet that I really want to read this year. If you don't know, I am currently on a book buying ban for the year. It's gone okay. It's gone well enough. I think my birthday is around February and I went a little crazy and bought a bunch of new books then, but I've been pretty good since then. I did buy myself a little treat that is actually this illustrated copy of The Bell Jar. I bought this when I quit my job because frankly it's beautiful, so I'm not really sorry about that. But other than that, it's been going really well, and to be honest, the book buying ban actually officially kicks in now, really, after my trip, because I'm going back to school. So for financial reasons, I'm gonna try to read through all of the books that I own instead of going out and buying new books, because I don't have an income. The other day, I went through all of my books and decided to map out a little bit of the next few months, because it can be really overwhelming looking at my to-read shelf to try and pick out the next book after I've just finished a book. I feel like it just, I don't know, I get like decision fatigue or something. I went through all of my to-reads and just picked a few books that I'm like, oh yes, I definitely want to read that in the summertime. I feel like it'll be a lot of fun. So I thought I would take you through them, so get cozy. Put everything on this little cart here that you see behind me, that you are seeing right now, that you saw at the beginning of this video. I'm not sure when you are going to see it. That is up to editing, Megan. Wow, the energy is a little weird right now. I've separated it out by month, and I thought that I would show you the books that I really want to get to this summer, and we could talk about books for a little bit. So let's dive in, starting right away with April. April is it's currently April actually right now, and the first few books that I put on the book cart were specifically meant for me to read during April. Currently, I'm actually reading The Count of Monte Cristo, and it is so good, but it is a big boy. So I knew that I wasn't actually probably going to get through a lot of books in April. On top of reading a massive book, I'm also going on a trip. So I picked two books that I thought would be a little bit easier to read, as well as a book which is perfect for a road trip across North America. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. We will talk about it. Three books that I picked out for April are Ember and the Ice Dragons. This is a book about a magician who encounters a dragon, turns the dragon into a little girl. And I picked this book out because it is middle grade and I've heard really good things about it. Obviously, it's got dragons, and anything that has dragons, I will read. To be honest, I'm really scared of flying, and not a lot of my trip, but I will be going on a number of flights. And I just wanted something that I could read on the plane that would be light and easy and distracting, but also compulsively readable. And I feel like this book is definitely going to be that. I also feel like it's a good book for April because it's still wintry. It still has winter vibes, and I live in Canada. I know I won't be in Canada for the majority of April. It will still be very cold, and it still snows in April, and I'm just trying to get that last little bit of winter before the rest of the year. The next book that I picked is an American classic because I will be in America. I don't know why I said America that way, but I will be in America, and it's also a war book. It's a war lit. This is John Steinbeck. The Moon is Steinbeck. I don't know why I said Steinbeck. The Moon is Down. This is kind of a parable to Nazi Germany. This is set in a town that is unnamed, that is being occupied, and it's a character study, but it's also a study of war. And John Steinbeck was born in California, and I will be not ending my trip in California, but the last of the kind of adventure part will be in California. So I picked this one, frankly, because I've always wanted to read it, but also it is really small and it's very light, and I'm hoping that I can bring these 3 books with me. We will see. I'll be going to a lot of bookstores, so I will probably be buying books, so my options are limited. So I picked very light books. And the last one is the one that I've hinted at that I'm sure you may have guessed. If not, it is going to be very, very obvious. I will stop building it up. On the Road by Jack Kerouac. The trip that I'm going on is a road trip from Vancouver in BC all the way down to LA, and I'm so deeply excited. I loved the Beats in high school. I loved the Beats in high school so very much. I read all of Bukowski and Burroughs and a bunch of Ginsberg in high school, but I actually never read Kerouac, believe it or not. I don't even know if you can say that you liked the Beats, having never read Kerouac. I am really excited to read this one. This is all about a road trip across North America. It is the quintessential American adventure story, and I'm really excited to dive into what I understand to be a novel that is full to the brim of characters. One of the places that we're going to is San Francisco, and there's a lot of like beatnik areas in San Francisco, and I just feel like this will be so special reading it in advance of going there. This is going to be the book that I almost exclusively read, and those other 2 will just be backups just in case, but this is the book that I'm hoping to get through during my adventure, and I just feel like it's so on the nose but so wonderful. Moving right along to the next month, you will have noticed in the cart that separating April and May is Devotions by Mary Oliver. I love this poetry for the spring and summer. It is light, it is full of nature, it is full of hope and wonder, and I just equate Mary Oliver to spring and summer so much. So next up we have May. Just a quick note, how I set this up is I picked the classics that I really want to read, and then I kind of filled in around them. I picked a lot of classics actually. The very first classic that I really want to read, and that has been on my wanting to read list for a really long time, is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I've heard people talk about this book like it is the most magical book that they've ever read, and I feel like kicking off my studies and my summer and coming back from adventure, this is the perfect book to pick up when I have to settle back into life. This will be the first vacation that I've taken in a really long time, and I crave adventure in the summertime. In the summertime, particularly where I live, where I live, it's really hard not to want to be outside 24/7, to be on a lake, to like get out of the city, and I won't be able to do that because I'll be in school. And I feel like reading an amazing work of art will remind me why I'm doing what I'm doing, and that is because I absolutely love books. So that is my hope for this one. That is a big hope to have. I really hope that I love it. I really do. I'm sure that I will. So that is the first book, one of the first classics that I'm gonna pick up in the summer. The next one is a writer I've wanted to read for a really long time, and I haven't picked up, and I don't know why. I don't know why I've been delaying on Virginia Woolf, but I have. And the first book that I really want to read from her is To the Lighthouse. This book is so precious to me because Tom, my husband, actually surprised me with a bunch of books one night, just randomly, and this is one of the books, and it was so special. It was obviously so amazing. I feel like Tom brings me books like other people bring their partners flowers, and I love that. And I have wanted to read this book for a really long time, and I feel like since it is lighthouse themed, it will be really good to read in the summer. This is actually inspired by Virginia Woolf's Summers in Cornwall, so I feel like it will be a really good summer read. I am very much an atmospheric reader, and I love to read books set in summer during the summer and books set in winter during the winter. It just really helps me fall in love with whatever season I'm currently in. Excited to read Virginia Woolf's writing. I feel like I'm gonna love her, and that's really all I can say about it. I just really want to read her. Let me know if there are other works from Virginia Woolf that I should be diving into maybe after this. I know she has written so much. I also think I'd really like to read her journals. And speaking of journals, as you may or may not know, probably my favorite book of this year so far was Red Comet, which is a biography on Sylvia Plath, and it has just made me fall deeper and deeper in love with Sylvia Plath's writing. So one of the books that I really want to aim to read this summer is her unabridged journals. I'm probably going to read while I'm reading other things. So I'll probably set a page count goal throughout the month of May for this book and read other books throughout. One of my favorite things about Sylvia Plath is how much of an amazing diaryist she is. I think that's how you'd pronounce that word, diaryist. Her journals are some of the best writing I've ever read, and that's crazy because they're journals. I mean, I just think about what I write in my journal and it's bad. It's just not good writing. So I'm very excited to read this one. I think I talked about this in one of my book ban videos. I can't remember. Maybe it was my last book haul. Yes, if you watched my very last book haul of this year, you will know that one of my goals this year is to read Hemingway. I read The Old Man and the Sea in high school and I loved it. I don't think I've read any other book from him. If I have, I don't remember, which is basically not reading them. And that happens a lot more than you think with me. I watch movies that I've already watched and forgotten way too many times to count. And so it might be that I've read his other books and just forgotten. Anyway, this is a long-winded way of saying I really want to start with A Farewell to Arms, and specifically this edition is so cool. This is the Hemingway Library edition, and what's really neat about it is that it includes all of the endings to this. How many endings does it have? 47 different endings to this book. It has the early drafts of his writing as well as the endings, and I just think that as a writer it'll be so inspiring to see. I'm all about demystifying the process of writing, and I feel like being able to read Hemingway's first drafts and alternate endings will be so interesting. And I also just really love the cover. I think the cover is fascinating. So really excited for this. Quintessential war lit. Yeah, he was an ambulance driver in World War I. There are so many reasons why I should love Hemingway, so I'm really excited to dive into him. So I made an absolute point to put one of his books on my summer reading list because I need to get it. The next two are books that I've actually had on my list for a really long time. One of them is nonfiction. This is The Secret Network of Nature by Peter Wohlleben. And I actually picked this up at a used bookstore here in Toronto, and I've wanted to read it for a really long time. It's basically just filled with super, super cool nature facts about how nature is all connected and the various methods of communication that trees and plants and all these kinds of animals have. It says here, did you know that trees can influence the rotation of the earth, or that wolves can alter the course of a river, or that earthworms control wild boar populations? I feel like it's just going to be a book filled with amazing nature facts, and I am a big camper and I love the outdoors, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get a lot of outdoor adventure in after my massive adventure, so I'm really not complaining. But I'm hoping that this will kind of serve as a little dose of nature, and I'm really hoping that I can read this at the park under a tree because I feel like that would be really cool. And one of my goals this year was to read more nonfiction, and I haven't read a nonfiction pretty much since the Sylvia Plath book, so I want to read more nonfiction, so I threw that one in because I have a lot of nature books that I haven't actually read. Okay, this next one, again, has been on my to-read list for a really long time. I've wanted to get to it, and that is The Summer Dragon by Todd Lockwood. I want to read it, and I feel like it's pretty obvious why. It's called The Summer Dragon. It's got dragons, it's got summer in the title. I want to read a dragon book in the summer. This is all about a world where dragons are weaponized, and we have our young protagonist who raises dragons to be used as weapons for a kind of empire-esque political mechanism. And she stumbles upon a very rare type of dragon called the Summer Dragon. There are illustrations throughout this book, which I think is really, really awesome. I actually think Todd Lockwood is a illustrator, which is super, super neat. I've held off reading this one because I don't think that there's a sequel, and it will kill me to read a book that the sequel isn't out yet. But I will do it. I've done it before. I don't love it, but I want to read this. I want to read more dragon books this summer. Moving right along to what I want to read in June. Actually, hold on, let me just take a sip of this because filming these videos is quite difficult because you just talk a lot. Those are the amazing insights that actually get cut in editing. I'm not that interesting of a person. Oh boy, this is hard. Hold on. One of my super fun life goals is to read all of the Anne of Green Gables books in the series. I've read, I think, the first 3 growing up, but I stopped after that, and I actually have all of them in a boxed set, and I really, really, really want to read them all. I have the second book on my TBR for this summer. I think what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna only read 1 book a year. So that's gonna be a really long commitment, but they're so fun and delightful. And if you have not read Anne of Green Gables, you absolutely should. You should at the very least watch not the Netflix adaptation, the older adaptation with Megan Fellows, I believe is her name. She is a phenomenal Anne of Green Gables. I haven't seen the Netflix one. That's the only reason why I'm not recommending it. I have no shade towards that. So this is Anne of Avonlea. This is the second book in the series. And like I said, it's going to be a really long commitment, but I think I can do it. It's going to be totally fine. The next book that I really want to reread in the summer is after I'm done with her journals, I really want to read The Bell Jar. This will be really fun to revisit because I actually annotated this book in high school. So it'll be really fun getting some insights from past Megan. I want to reread it. I love this cover. I love this edition so very much. I guess this will be the summer of Sylvia Plath, and I'm not upset about it. So one thing that I was deeply aware of at this point when I was picking out my TBR was that I didn't have any Russian books yet. I didn't pick any for the summer, and that's not acceptable for me. I need to read a Russian book every few months at the very least. And so I really want to attempt to read Dead Souls. I think that this will be so fun. This is essentially a portrait of Russian village life that I have wanted to read Gogol for a really long time. We are introduced to a Dickensian cast of peasants, landowners, conniving petty officials, few of whom can resist the seductive illogic of our main character's proposition. I just think that this will be a lot of fun. I'm hoping it will be a lot of fun. And like I said, at that point, I knew I needed to throw in some Russian. The next 3 are really random, but again, they're just books that I really want to read. I think that they all make sense for summer. I could be wrong, but the next one is Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys. I read Jane Eyre last year with a buddy of mine. That is her favorite book, and she really wanted me to read it, and I loved it. I really loved it. I actually think I might reread it in the fall. We shall see. I have so many books that I want to read. This is getting stressful. But this is a sort of prequel / different perspective on Jane Eyre. This is from the perspective of one of the characters. Our main character, Mr. Rochester, has a wife who he basically keeps in the attic. And this is a kind of retelling of her story. And I have heard only exceptional things about this. I always feel really silly commenting on covers, but I used to work in publishing and covers are really important. Like really important. Like I cannot tell you the amount of meetings and conversations and nitpicking moments that I've experienced about covers of books. So I know people always say don't judge a book by its cover, but like people do. And anyway, this cover is beautiful. And honestly, I don't really know why I picked this for the summer. It's just something that it's just a book I've really wanted to read, and maybe because I picked up Dead Souls, I just wanted to pick lighter reads in between. This book, actually, I was gonna bring on my road trip, but I decided not to because I don't know how much time truly I'm gonna have to read. And that is Animal by Lisa Taddeo. I feel like the back really sells it, but this book is set in LA, and I feel like at that point I will be far enough away from my trip but still yearning for it, and picking up a book that is set in LA will be really fun. It'll be a fun way for me to return to it. But this book sounds so good. Animal is a depiction of female rage at its rawest and a visceral exploration of the fallout from male-dominated society. With writing that scorches and mesmerizes, Taddeo illustrates one woman's exhilarating transformation from prey to predator. This is also set in the summer. It's set in the sweltering heat, as it says, of LA. And I feel like I've watched a lot of horror movies that are about this, but I haven't read a lot of books that kind of explore female rage and revenge. So very, very jazzed to read this one. Gonna be a perfect summer book. And speaking of perfect summer books, I am, as I said, reading The Count of Monte Cristo, and it is like this adventure on the seas. At least that's how it begins. And I love pirate books. I love books set on the sea. I love books that like travel on boats. I don't know if any of that makes sense. I did break my book buying ban for this one, but I did so in a way that I can justify, which is that for my birthday, I really wanted to buy the sequel to Anatomy. I couldn't find it anywhere though, which was really frustrating. So when I went into the bookstore and I couldn't find it, I decided that I would spend my credit of buying myself a birthday present on this new release, The Adventures of Amina Al-Sharafi. This sounds like the quintessential pirate fantasy that I'm all about. So I feel like I have high hopes. I just was a little bit bored with City of Brass. I loved the writing and I really liked the characters, but it just bored me ever so slightly. So I have high hopes for this one still. And this is a new trilogy of magic and mayhem on the high seas in this tale of pirates and sorcerers, forbidden artifacts and ancient mysteries in one woman's determined quest to seize a final chance at glory and write her own legend. Like a pirate book, a pirate fantasy in the summertime will be phenomenal. The last month, we are on the last month. April, May, June, we are on July. We are on July now. I started to get a little bit ambitious towards the end of me picking out my TBR. So this month actually has way more books than the other one, but that's okay. I'm not that upset about it. The first one is a book that has been on my list for a really long time. It's been on my shelves for a really long time, and I feel like I could read it quite quickly. That is Lore Olympus. It is a graphic novel, and it's all about romance between Hades and Persephone. I love Hades and Persephone romances a lot. I have not read a lot of great ones, but I've been told by a lot of people that this is definitely the best one they've ever read. So I'm really excited for that. It's so cute. The drawings are super, super cute. So I feel like I could read this probably on like a summer weekend when I really need to just like relax and escape in a book. So this next one is, again, it's very random. I know it's very random, but I picked this up at again, a used bookstore here in the city, and that is Utopia Avenue by David Mitchell. I have actually never read any David Mitchell books. I haven't read Cloud Atlas or The Bone Clocks, so don't know why I picked this one to start with. It just sounded really cool. This is all about a British band in the 1960s. It takes you like across their career, and that's truly all I know about this book, and that's all I want to know. A really fun book that's like a lot of vibes, you know, with really good writing from what I understand. So excited to give David Mitchell a try. There's a lot more fantasy in this time around, so the next books are like fantasy, but they're fantasy across genres. We have A Queen in Hiding. I have all of the books in this series on my shelves because I got them for a really good price at a used bookstore here in Toronto. This is a massive world, from what I understand. There's a lot of world building in this. It is similar to Uprooted, at least that's what it's comparing to on the back. Quintessential hero's journey, where we start out with an orphan who's actually bound to be a queen. She's secretly a queen, and she basically becomes like an assassin. And from what I understand, it has a pretty intense full cast of characters. I have not read a whole lot of like fantasy series this year, and so the summertime is like the perfect time to dive into one. So depending on if I like this one, I will either continue on the series, or I picked out some other books that I will take you through right now, and I'll just give these ones to like a little library or something. So we'll see if I like it. I hope I do. It has been so very long since I've read a fantasy series. And contemporary romance. I am not the biggest romance reader. I love books that have love stories in it, but I don't read a lot of like the romance genre. However, this book has been on my shelves for like 2 or 3 summers now, and I feel like it will be a really, really fun summer read. This is all about a romance between a witch and a pirate who are enemies. I mean, look at the cover. I think it'll be so fun. It'll be a ride. I think my best friend read it, and she reads a lot more romance than I did, and she thought it was fine, so I think it'll be good. It might even be an audiobook, to be honest. I might like download the audiobook and like read along. This is a second book in a fantasy series. The first book in this series is Dark Shores. This is by Danielle L. Jensen. I read Dark Shores, I think either last year or the year before, I can't remember, but I was pleasantly surprised. I actually really liked it. I really liked the romance, and the world was fantastic. And again, it could just be because it was like about boats that I really liked it, but I enjoyed it. And so I went out and I actually bought the sequel almost immediately after. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, because the sequel is actually, I don't think it's fully a sequel. It's about another character. So I don't know what that's called. I can't remember what it's called. Something happens to this character that is pretty traumatic, and this picks up kind of right where it leaves off. So I am excited for this. I really like the world. It's a perfect world to read in the summer. If you want summer fantasy, I highly recommend Dark Shores. It was really fun. It was a really good read. So this last one is also very random, but I have wanted to read Orhan Pamuk for a very long time. And I have once again gone through an entire winter without reading Snow. And I can't read Snow in the summer. I mean, I could, but I don't want to. I want to read it in the middle of a snowstorm. That is when you should read that book. Picked up Knights of Plague. This is a masterful historical fiction that is part detective story, part historical epic, all about a plague that ravages an fake island in the Ottoman Empire. I love historical fiction. It is probably one of my first loves in literature. It is just so, when it is well done, it is so well done. So I am really, really excited to read this, and I'm really excited to read Pamuk's writing. I think that I'll really enjoy it. But this is going to be a pretty big commitment, which, now that I think about it, this month I don't really have any other books that are as intimidating as this one. So I think that I set this one up to be my classic. So the book that I will read throughout the month, because I do think it'll be really dense. I don't know a whole lot about the Ottoman Empire, but I do like the idea of the plague. I like the idea of the plague. I'm just gonna take a sip after that. That's it. That is all of the spring and summer books that I want to read. I hope that I can actually get through even more books, because I love to read, and like the one thing in life that stresses me out is that like we only have so many books that we can read in our lifetime, and I want to read them all, and like that's really scary to me, and it's actually the worst thing to think about, because it just stresses you out even more. So I'm going to stop talking about it, and instead I'm going to say that I'm so looking forward to reading in the summer months. What are you reading? What are you going to read this summer? Let me know. I'm always looking out for new books, and while I can't necessarily buy any books, I'm still adding a ton of books to my want to buy list on Goodreads. There is such a thing as libraries, as I'm going to be learning. I cannot wait to see what the summer holds, and I think it's going to be filled with a lot of adventures, both imaginary and real. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.